Hey guys, NaturallyNellzy here again with a video, and I have something to share with you guys that really pains my heart, and it is on the discussion of breakage. I was doing my hair the other day and I was doing twists, and I was, about ready to put them all up, and I just noticed like a little patch in my hair, and I was like, where's the rest of my hair? So I don't know how else to fathom exactly what happened other than I experienced breakage, and I did try to see if it was on different parts of my hair, but it seemed like it was just mainly in that one area. There's no way you guys will be able to tell because my hair is like full. So yeah, I actually insert a clip, so probably like now you guys can see exactly what was going on, and I was just like, how in the world did I get breakage? So of course, anytime when I experience something in my hair journey that may not go as planned, I always like to see exactly what I could do to combat that and also share with you guys. So in this video, I'm just going to share a couple of tips to avoid breakage. So the first tip that I have for you guys has to do with trimming your hair, and I can't stress enough how important trimming your hair is. I have a video on that if you guys exactly want to see how I trim my hair, but basically you want to make sure that your ends are trimmed and they are healthy, because what happens is when you do have a split end, it actually continues to split up the hair shaft until the entire thing is just like this, and that thus leads to breakage. As far as trimming goes, I tend to do mine just when I feel like my hair needs a trim, but some do trim, I think it's every 8 weeks. Some people do it every 3 months. Some people do it maybe 4 times a year, 1 time a year. I think it's mainly up to you and what your hair and your practices are like and everything like that. Tip number 2 has to do with styling, and this has to do more so when your hair is wet, specifically soaking wet. You never want to style your hair when it's soaking wet, because that's when it is in its most fragile state. So anything with a brush, a comb will make that snapping sound, and once you hear that, you know that your hair is just not going to be in the best shape. So what you want to do, I usually offer, when I get out the shower or whether I wash my hair recently, I just get a t-shirt. You can get a towel as well, but I think a t-shirt works well, preferably cotton. And what that does is just consumes most of the moisture out of your hair. So when you do take the towel off, your hair is more so like damp but not soaking wet. So that will also help in minimizing breakage as well. Tip number 3 has to do with protein, and I also have a video on protein treatments and how to do it yourself at home. If you guys are interested, I'll leave that down below. But basically, protein treatments are really good for the hair, because what it does is basically it makes it a lot stronger so that it isn't so fragile and isn't so weak. And sometimes the hair can have like a protein deficiency, so sometimes you do want to just give it a little extra strength to it, and that will actually help it to avoid being broken when you are maybe styling, maybe combing, maybe brushing, and so on. And a cool way that you can see if your hair needs protein is to take a strand that most likely should, don't rip it out your scalp. What you want to do is wet it in water, and if you can pull it apart, if it goes like a lot, like very, very, very stretched, and then it's just snapping, that means that you have too much moisture in your hair and you want to put some protein back into it. If you pull your hair apart and it just snaps like without any type of tension to it, you need more moisture. But if your hair tends to go a little bit and then it just breaks off regularly, when you do pull it apart, your hair is healthy and it is fine. So that's a cool way to see if you have a protein deficiency or maybe you need some more moisture in your regimen. Tip number 4 has to do with more so chemicals. You guys see that my hair is color treated. I actually stopped dyeing my hair because my dye was discontinued. But when I was frequently dyeing my hair, I would do it at least 4 times a year. So chemicals do have an effect on your hair care, especially if you don't upkeep it with the chemicals being on it. So you do want to make sure that you are applying the chemicals to your hair, whether it be a dye, maybe it might be a relaxer, maybe it might be bleach, anything like that. You want to make sure that you are following the directions, and if you aren't too keen on how to go about doing it, I was just going to a stylist. But when you do, I'm just going to talk about hair dye because that's my personal experience. You always want to make sure that your hair is very much moisturized when you do apply chemicals to your hair, whether it's color treated, whether it's bleach, if you're using relaxer, so on, because those chemical compounds, they pretty much break down the hair, and you need to put whatever was taken out of it, you need to make sure you put it back in there. So always make sure that your hair is moisturized, you are following the directions, or you are consulting a professional when you are going about using chemical changes to your hair. Tip number 5 has to do with heat. If you are using styling tools, whether it be a blow dryer, flat iron, so on, curling wand, you want to make sure that you aren't using it too much. I know when I was relaxed, I had something called a heat pass, where it's every couple of months you do allow yourself to use heat. But of course, when you are using heat or any type of hot styling tools, you want to make sure that you are using oils and heat protectant, heat protectant serum, anything of that nature. You want to make sure that your hair is protected. And it also helps to probably do a deep conditioner or maybe a protein treatment or some type of treatment to your hair before you actually use the hot tool, because that just makes it a lot stronger. So you do want to make sure that you're watching how much heat that you use. Of course, make sure that you're babying your hair before the initial styling, and probably I would say give it some time before you decide to put some more heat in your hair. Maybe flat iron your hair every month, maybe flat iron every 2 months, 6 months. It varies depending on your strength of your hair, because everyone's hair is different and not all of us can take the same amount of stuff. So you do want to pretty much fluctuate how much you use heat and just decide if it's right for your regimen. Tip number 6 has to do with the styling tools that you use. I personally use a Denman brush, and I was thinking to myself, maybe that could be the cause of it. I was using a wide tooth comb, wide tooth comb before in the past, and I stopped using it because I felt like I was using it too much in my hair, and opted for a Denman brush that I use probably every week. I would say once a week I would use my Denman brush. But you do want to make sure that, you know, your tools, especially even your bobby pins, anything that you put in your hair, you want to make sure that it is protected and it is a-okay to use in your hair. For one, your styling tool, I think I might opt to take out some rows of the teeth in my Denman brush just so I could be on the safe side when I am, you know, detangling my hair. You also want to make sure that you aren't, you know, like I said earlier, trying to style your hair when it's soaking wet, detangle when it's soaking wet. You want to make sure you actually have something in your hair, whether it be conditioner, a leave-in, a styling cream, whatever have you. When you are using a styling tool, you want to make sure that your hair is already protected and it has something in it already. As far as the bobby pin goes, if you're using any type of pins, clips, or anything in your hair, you want to make sure that the teeth or whatever it is that attaches in your hair has a rubber grip or some type of protective barrier. Once those bobby pins start missing those little grips at the end, it causes your hair, when you do apply it, to snag and, you know, tear, break, whatever. And when you take it out your hair, it's pretty much, you know, breaking through anything else. So you want to make sure that your tools are protected and safe for your hair. Same thing goes for fine tooth combs as well. I really don't use those too much, other than when I need to style my hair with probably a tool to get a really straight style. So you just want to make sure that those tools that you are using are appropriate for your hair, and that you are taking your time when you are detangling or just using them in any fashion with your hair. Another key factor that leads to breakage is not having enough moisture in your hair, like I piggyback off of earlier. You want to make sure that your hair is always moisturized, especially if that hair is natural, because you guys already know what we go through. My regimen when I am doing my moisturizing is I always apply water. Water is one of the main factors that I use when I am styling my hair. I then go over that with a curling cream or styling cream, maybe a leave-in, and then I'll seal that with an oil. So what I do is I use water, I use my leave-in or maybe a curling cream, and then I seal that in with oil. And it's something like a lock method or something similar to that. I'm actually going to do a video on that in another time, and I'll show you guys what that is. But making sure that you have your moisture, you know, your moisturization process locked down, packed, keyed in is very important, because dry, brittle hair tends to break, and that's what leads to the breakage and, you know, brittleness and dry hair, and we don't want any of that. So make sure your moisture is a-okay. Tip number 7 or 8 has to do with protective styling. I know it's natural. Sometimes we don't want to, you know, really delve in our hair, especially in the winter months when it's a lot colder. So for me, I do wear a lot of wigs, and I always make sure that my hair is protected underneath. So before you actually apply that wig or anything, I usually decide to install some type of protective style, whether it be a flat twist, whether it be twists or anything like that. And I always make sure that my hair is moisturized, I have my oils, and I don't have my ends exposed. That's the main thing that you want to pretty much make sure it's covered when you are doing protective styling. You want to make sure that your ends, if you're doing something where you're doing a design with your hair, you want to make sure that the edges aren't too tight when you are doing styles, particularly braids or anything of that nature. You also want to make sure that your ends are tucked away if you are doing styling with your own hair. Then moving on into the wigs, before you even decide to put that wig on, make sure that your hair is protected underneath. I cannot stress how important this factor is. If you are using a wig cap, make sure that it's either a silk based cap or it's one where it doesn't have the mesh, because what the mesh does is it actually get into your hair, especially if your wig has combs in it. Mine usually do, and like I said before, those combs will snag, especially if your hair isn't already free and it's in a style. What it's going to do is snag your hair, so you want to make sure that your hair is tucked away. You do have some type of silk cap because you don't want anything to be rubbing on your hair causing friction, because that can also lead to breakage. And just make sure that your hair underneath is taken care of before you actually apply the wig itself. And those are all of my tips for avoiding breakage. Now I know some of you are like, okay, we're good on making sure our hair is protected and avoiding breakage. What about treating it? So what I'm currently going to do is use my good old trusty castor oil. You guys know I absolutely love castor oil because it's good for strengthening your hair, thickening it up, especially if you do have an issue with your edges. Maybe your edges are thin. Castor oil is amazing. So what I'm going to do is pretty much in this area right here where you guys saw in the clip, I'm just going to apply castor oil to that area. I would say every other day, maybe 2 weeks, depending on, you know, how my hair is, because I don't want too much buildup, and that is going to help in making that hair grow out with the breakage. You can also opt for a supplement as well. I've tried biotin in the past, but you want to be careful with using it because I have heard a lot of instances where it causes you to break out. So you do want to be careful which one you use. Biotin is also really good for making your hair grow out healthy and stronger as well. And the last tip that I have for you guys is knowing the difference between breakage and shedding. With breakage, when you see it, it's usually a short piece of hair. It just ends and then it starts. And with shedding, there's always a little bulb. There's a little, if you look closely, there's a white area at the top of the hair, and then there's a regular area where the hair shaft just comes down. So it's definitely imperative to know if you got shedding or if you have breakage, because if you're able to identify what the problem is, you can then try to find a solution. So making sure you know the difference is very, very important. And with that being said, I am finished with all of my tips, guys. So of course I'll do an update video and let you guys know exactly what's going on in this little area up here with my breakage. And I hope that this video was helpful for you guys. So if you have any more tips, feel free to leave them down below, and we can help each other in avoiding breakage and treating it together. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.